What's up everybody, I'm Average Joe and welcome to another Average video. Today's video we're going to be doing a review on the EcoFlow Smart Home Panel 2 and the EcoFlow Delta Pro Ultra, and maybe a second one too, but we'll see. Anyway, this video is mainly for those of you who are thinking about getting this setup, or maybe you already have one, you're not sure how to use it or install it. That's basically what we're going to cover in this video. Alrighty, so let's get to it. Alrighty, first thing on the list is going to be the EcoFlow Smart Home Panel 2. We're going to go over all the specifications, all the features, and the ease of installation. Alrighty, so in a nutshell, this is a 100 amp 12 circuit sub panel. Right over here we have a main panel, which is dumb. Right over here we have a sub panel, which is smart. What makes this thing so smart is obviously behind the cover you have your 12 circuits or up to 12 circuits. Behind the dead front cover is where all the voodoo magic happens. Basically inside there is an automatic transfer switch which will automatically switch you into battery mode or off-grid mode whenever the grid or power goes out. Whenever the grid or power comes back on, the automatic transfer switch built inside will of course automatically transfer you back onto grid. And also at any time if you want to take your critical loads or whatever you have on this panel off grid, you can open up the app and then manually do it from there, because this does connect through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. There's an antenna right up here on the top. So that's what makes it so smart, is it can automatically switch you on and off grid, you know, based on grid power, or whenever you want to manually do it, or you can actually set up some tasks inside the app, which I'll show you in just a little bit, that you can basically take yourself on and off grid, you know, based on certain times of the day. Maybe you get charged a higher rate of electricity, you know, during certain times of the day. You can set that up in here to take you off grid during the high rate times and then back on grid whenever the lower rate comes into effect. You know, you could do all of that stuff inside the app, which again I'll show you in just a minute. All right, so in here, like I said, you can add up to 12 circuits. However, that's kind of a lie, because you could technically install these single slot double breakers in here, but just keep in mind you're only going to have control of the single slot, you know, like the single slot right here. So you could get up to 24, but you only have control of 12 circuits. And since we're here, I do want to answer one comment that I got in my last video. They were basically asking if you can control each individual circuit by themselves. You can manually turn on and off each individual circuit, but that's all you can do, is you can turn it on or off through the app. And then the last thing I'll mention in here is it does come with a manual generator lockout right here if you have a backup generator. If you're in an extended power outage, you know, there's a lot of cloud cover, you don't have much solar coming in and your batteries are low and you need to recharge them, all you would need to do obviously is turn off the grid circuit breaker, slide the manual lockout down, and then turn on your generator circuit breaker. What that allows you to do is basically power the entire sub panel, kind of like off of the grid, but you'll be running it off the generator. So you'll be powering everything that is in here, plus have the capability to recharge your batteries. Again, I'll show you that part in the app. All right, so since this is a indoor and outdoor panel, this one is a rainproof enclosure. You can install it indoors or outdoors. However, this bottom section right over here, that part is not, you know, weather or rain proof. We'll get to this lower section in a couple of minutes, but that part cannot be installed outside. All right, so since this can be installed outside behind this beautiful glass front door, that's serious, by the way, I am serious, it's beautiful. Behind the glass door, it does have a foam seal in here so you can keep out, you know, any sort of weather that you have outside. All right, so then we're gonna move on to the installation. For me, I would say it's DIY friendly because it does come with an installation manual. It tells you how to do basically everything. On the flip side, if you haven't done any electrical work, or if you have and you're not allowed to do your own electrical work in your own home, you know, obviously you're gonna have to get a licensed electrician, you know, to install everything. But again, for them, it's just a sub panel. This is gonna be super easy for them to do. But anyway, going back to my installation, for me, the first thing that I did is I went into my main panels here and I wrote down everything that I wanted to transfer over to the new panel. You know, things that I wanted to have off-grid or things that I wanted to have, you know, in an emergency. The main things for me is my furnace, because I live in a cold climate. I don't want to lose heat in the winter time. Second thing is the refrigerator, because I don't want to lose any of the food. Maybe I just went to the grocery store, you know the drill. Third one is going to be my TV room, because it has my cable modem, Wi-Fi router, you know, entertainment type of stuff. And then the fourth one is my basement shop area down here, because it has my computer that I can do all of my videos on. We have a couple of refrigerators down here as well. Anything else from there is a bonus for me. I don't really need to power anything else except for those critical items. So for my installation, I only ended up transferring 8 circuits for right now. You know, I could have transferred over my dryer or my air conditioning, but again, it's winter time right now. We don't get a whole lot of sun, you know, for solar intake and stuff like that. It's kind of not worth it for me to power those big heavy loads since I don't have solar coming in. So maybe in the summertime, you know, I'll switch those over and I can try it then. For you, the story may be a little bit different. You know, maybe you're more worried about summertime, you know, air conditioning, you know, well pump, stuff like that. That's basically going to be for you to decide. The next thing after that is figuring out where you even want to put the sub panel. I've got a ton of room down here in my basement, so obviously this is the best place for me. And then we're going to go back to this box right here that I mentioned earlier that is not, you know, waterproof, and it shouldn't be installed outside. So if all of your panels are outside already, maybe you want to install this outside as well, but you need to bring this box right here inside, because this box is removable and then you can keep all of your batteries indoors. If you just don't have enough room for everything in one room, again, you can remove this box and wire it somewhere else so you can put the batteries somewhere else, like in your garage. After that, since I knew I'm going to be mounting it right over here, the next thing I did is I started drilling a bunch of holes into the top so I could transfer all of the circuits from my panels over here into the new panel. Then I also drilled a hole right here so I could run my main AC feed wires into it so I could power the sub panel. And then after that, it gets kind of easy. You just mount it to the wall, install some conduit, and then I ran my AC wires, my main AC feed wires. Next thing after that is I started pulling my circuits out of my sub panel that's over here, and then I brought them down into the top of the panel right over here. And then I just started wiring one circuit breaker at a time. After that, it got super easy. All I needed to do was install the dead front cover and install the door, and then label all of my circuits, and boom, I was pretty much done. In one day, you can have this installed, you know, something that you can start your off-grid journey with. You can do your time of use, you know, whatever you want to do, you can have it done. Alrighty, we're gonna move on to the EcoFlow Delta Pro Ultra. Bottom side is your battery and the top side is the inverter. For the battery capacity down here, it is 6,144 watt hours or 6.1 kilowatt hour. Batteries inside are lithium iron phosphate. You get an average life cycle of 3,500 cycles to 80% state of health. What that means is after you complete your 3,500 cycles, which will technically take forever, you're still going to have 80% of your battery life left. So it's not going to be dead or anything like that. It's still going to be usable. It's going to come with all your protection features already built inside. Another cool thing about this is it does have heaters inside. So if you're in a cold climate like me, I could put this outside in my garage. My garage does not have any insulated doors. It gets super cold in there. This is going to be just fine out there. If it does get cold enough, the heaters inside are going to warm up the batteries so everything is usable and safe. It also has an IP54 rating, which means it's dust protected and water splash safe. What that means for us is don't splash it with water. The top side, like I said, is the inverter, and it's got a 7,200 watt 240 volt split phase inverter, which is actually good for battery backups for our homes in the United States. If we zoom into the screen right here on the display, it's going to give you pretty much all the information you're going to need. So it's got your input and output in watts. Right in the center, it's going to be your battery percent state of charge. Right below that's going to be your time remaining. That is going to be the time you're remaining on battery or how much time you have left to charge the system. Right over here is going to be your solar input if you have any solar connected and you have solar coming in. Right below that, we have 2 USB charging ports right here. And on the other side, we've got 2 USB-A charging ports. And then obviously right in the center, you have an AC button, your power button, and your DC button. All right, so starting on the front with all of these little doors right over here, we're gonna start on the left-hand side. So behind door number 1, we have an area where you can install a 4G dongle. That's basically if you're out in the boonies and you don't have Wi-Fi or anything like that, you can still connect to the system remotely. And then underneath these 2 doors right here, we have 4 120 20 amp outlets. These also have the UPS capability or uninterruptible power supply capability. These 2 right here have a transfer time of 20 milliseconds. And then these 2 right here have a transfer speed of 0 milliseconds. Right next to that, we have your TT30 RV style plug. This one is also 120 volts and it has an output of 30 amps. And this one also has the UPS function, and this one is the 0 millisecond transfer time. And then this one right here is your 120/240 L14-30 output right here. And then finally, under door number 6, at the top, we have an Anderson style port. This is 12.6 volts, and you can do up to 30 amps max. Right below that, we have your low PV input port. Voltage range on here is 30 volts up to 150 volts DC, 15 amp max, or 1600 watts. Right below that, we have a ground screw, and then to the right of that, we have a fast slow charge switch. Again, this is adjustable inside the app. And then finally on the bottom, we have your AC charging port, and you can charge up to 1800 watts, adjustable through the app. On the right hand side over here, we have your high voltage PV input. This is through some MC4 connections right here. Voltage range for this is 80 volts up to 450 volts and 4000 watts. Another nice thing about this is it does have a shut off right here. So that's off, and that is on. These doors right here do slide in underneath, so you don't have to remove those or anything like that. Next to that, we have your input and output port. This is basically the cable that plugs into the Smart Home Panel 2. There is a few other things that you can connect to this port right here, like if you were bringing this with you traveling, you can get a EV charging adapter and plug that in here. Or if you're not using the Smart Home Panel 2, you can also get an adapter for a generator cable right here. And then finally over here, this is where you're going to connect all of your batteries. You just daisy chain them all together. And one thing that's really nice about these is they use the low profile cables, which everybody should be doing. And then finally, your other battery ports right here. If you had more batteries, you would plug that in here and go down and just alternate as you go. And of course, this system is expandable. So each 7,200 watt inverter can actually stack up to 5 batteries for a total of 30.7 kilowatt hour. And if one isn't enough, you can go with 2. So you could have 2 inverters paralleled together for 14.4 kilowatt worth of output. And then you can stack up to 10 batteries for a total of 61.4 kilowatt hour worth of battery storage. Now, in my opinion, 2 inverters and 10 batteries would kind of be a sweet spot. However, if that's not enough for you and you need more, you can do that. You can actually parallel in a 3rd inverter for 21.6 kilowatt worth of power output, and then you would stack up another 5 batteries for a total of 15 batteries, and then you would have 92.1 kilowatt hour worth of battery storage. That would be crazy. All right, next thing we're gonna do is connect everything up. And EcoFlow's done a really good job in making everything basically plug and play. It's super, super easy. All you're gonna need is the input and output cable. You're gonna plug one end right over here in the center port right here. This is the input output port. You're gonna plug it in here, and the other end's gonna go right up to the Smart Home Panel 2. You've got 3 options to choose from, and you can plug it into any port that you would like. And of course, if you have more than one, it's gonna be the exact same process. You're gonna take another input output cable, plug it into the DPU right here, and then the other end right into the Smart Home Panel. But wait, there's more. If you have the original Delta Pros, you can also use these as well. Of course, to use those, you're gonna need the new double voltage hub, which has the input output port on here. It's gonna be the exact same process. You're gonna take that same input output cable, plug one end to the double voltage hub and the other end to the Smart Home Panel 2. All right, we're gonna take one side of the cable and plug it in right here. Plug the second one in, and then right up here, you choose the slots that you'd like and just plug those right in. All right, now we're gonna take a look at the app, some of the features, and some of the things that you can do with the touch of a button. All right, so keep in mind, I've already been through the commissioning process. So whenever you turn yours on for the first time, you're gonna go through a commissioning process. All you're gonna do is basically follow whatever it tells you on the screen. So anyway, you're gonna open up the app, you're gonna click on the Smart Home Panel 2, and I think what I'll do is just go left to right, top to bottom, okay? So over here on the left-hand side, you can see a utility pole. That's how much we're drawing from the grid. Right now, I'm drawing roughly 800 watts. It's going through the panel and then out to the loads or whatever I have connected to the Smart Home Panel 2. Alrighty, and then right below that is gonna be how many Delta Pro Ultras you have connected, or maybe you have just the Delta Pros. Anyway, we can click on those as well, and you can get all of your battery information right here. Another thing you can do on the little power button up here on the top right, you can turn those on and off. That's basically these connections right here. And another thing that you can do right here, of course, is hit the Charge Now button, and that will, of course, charge the batteries. Another thing you can do in here, if you wanted to, is you can select each one and just get more battery information. If you have solar panels connected, you can click on the actual battery, and right down here in that bottom left-hand corner, look at that, we got 729 watts coming in. And that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna go into too much detail right there. Anyway, back out on the main screen, if we swipe up, you have all of these tiles right here. A couple of these are gonna be based on your electrical rate and all that kind of stuff, which we'll go over in just a second. But anyway, in here, you can keep track of all of your solar savings. You can do that over day, week, month, and year, your solar generation, etc. Okay, we'll back out of there. We'll click on home, and here it'll give you your total consumption, again, based on day, week, month, and year. If you slide up a little bit, it'll tell you how much consumption per each circuit, which is pretty cool. Go to grid information, total consumption, etc. And of course, the last tile down here is your tasks, which we'll go over in just a second. Back out of there, and then on the home screen, you can either swipe to the right or hit the circuit button right up there. Right up here is going to be every single circuit that you have inside of your Smart Home Panel 2. Now, one of the cool things that I like about this specific page is every single circuit that you have in here, you can see exactly how much is being drawn right now. It's like real time. So right now my kitchen is drawing 75 watts, my front room is drawing 19 watts, you know, etc. And another cool thing, you can click on it, like my basement shop over there with my computer and refrigerators and all that stuff over there. You can track all of that in here as well. So I don't know, I just find this really, really cool, and it gives you your, your current draw right up there. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier was if you could control each individual circuit manually, this is where you're gonna do it. You can turn it on and off only, and that's through that button right up there. If you hit that button, that circuit's going to shut down. So again, all of your circuits are in here. You can see how much they're drawing. You can keep track of all of that information. You can change your view, etc. So anyway, back on the main screen, we're gonna go up into that top right corner into the settings. In here, obviously, is going to be set up based on your location or how you're going to use the system. Some of this stuff is set up during the commissioning process. We're going to start with emergency settings and then outage strategy. All right, and you have 3 different ones in here, which is must supply, conditional supply, and no power supply. So if we click on setup, the first one is must supply. That's basically if the grid goes down, all of the circuits that you have selected in this group are going to have power until the battery reaches 0% state of charge, okay? If you swipe to the right, this is your conditional supply. These are going to be circuits that aren't technically as important, so whenever your battery reaches a certain percent state of charge, which you can select right here, I have mine set at 17% for this example. Whenever the batteries reach 17% state of charge, those circuits that you have selected in here are going to shut off to conserve you battery power. And then finally, the last one is no power supply. Whatever circuits you have in here, whenever the grid goes down, these circuits are not going to have power at all. Again, to save you battery power. So in here, basically select your circuits based on your needs. Okay, the next one down is Storm Guard. You can enable or disable that. Basically what that does is it kind of keeps an eye on your local weather. No, it doesn't have a little radar in there that tracks your weather. It tracks it based on your location. Basically what happens if you have this enabled is if there's a severe weather event in your area, what's going to happen is the batteries are going to recharge to 100% state of charge. to make sure you're prepared just in case the grid goes out. We're gonna back out of there and we're gonna go into the savings oriented settings. In here, first one is electrical rate settings. So depending on wherever you're at, you're gonna set your currency to your location. Right below this is gonna be your electrical rate. So that's gonna be how much you get charged per kilowatt hour. Here where I'm at, I basically get charged 9 cents a kilowatt hour the entire year. It's pretty cheap, so I don't really have to do anything in here other than put my 9 cents in there. But for the example for this video, I did go in here and change it from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I just put it for 15 cents just to show you what that would look like. And of course you can go in here and adjust that or add or subtract times, whatever you want. And also it has seasons in here. So if you have a summer season that you get charged more and then a winter season you get charged less, you can do all of that in here, which is pretty cool. All right, we back out and the next one down is your operating mode. So this is gonna be right down here at the bottom. Your savings mode, you have self-powered mode, scheduled tasks, and time of use mode. Self-powered mode is kind of like, you're starting your off-grid journey and you just want to try to run everything off-grid. If you do have this, obviously you want to have solar panels connected because you can discharge during the nighttime and then recharge during the daytime. And if you have enough battery or solar power, you can stay off-grid the entire time. Next one down is scheduled tasks. You can read that real quick. You can pause it, whatever. But in here, if we click on tasks, you're gonna go in here and select whenever you wanna go on grid or off grid, based on your electrical rate, really whenever you want. If you just wanna go off grid for certain times of the day, you can do that right in here. You just set up times for battery charging and discharging, okay? And then right below that is your time of use mode. But basically, again, this is real similar to the scheduled tasks. After you have your electrical rate and stuff in here, you're gonna select time of use and you're gonna basically go on and off grid, based on your electrical rate. I don't know, there's all sorts of stuff that you can do in here. And then the last thing up here at the top, which I did not mention, was your battery backup reserve. So if you're doing off-grid stuff and you get down to your percent state of charge that you have set in here, it's going to switch you back over to grid so you don't drain it down to 0. Okay, and we'll back out of here. All right, and then the last section down here is your battery and generator settings. So of course your charge limit, you can set your battery percent state of charge. I just have mine set at 90% because that's what EcoFlow recommends. Again, you can change that to whatever you want. Next one down is your charging power, or how much you want to recharge from the grid. If you want to recharge from the grid, you can adjust that from 500 watts all the way up to 7,200 watts. And then right below that is your EPS mode. If you have this enabled, basically you're using this system as a battery backup. So if the grid goes down, it's going to automatically switch over and continue powering whatever you have in here in that 20 millisecond time. If you don't have this enabled, the system's going to shut down for up to 5 seconds like it shows here, and then come back on and continue powering your loads. This setting actually is disabled whenever you are using an operating mode right up here. It's disabled, I'm pretty sure, because you could already be off grid at that same time. Next one down is going to be your generator settings if you have a generator. If you don't have one, you don't have to do anything in here, but I will say it is a really good idea to have a backup generator for your backup system. And the example I'll use, of course, is, there's a big storm out there, hurricane, snowstorm, whatever it is for your location. The storm knocks down trees on the power lines and you're out of power for a couple of days, let's say. And of course, the sun isn't out because there's so much cloud cover. You're not able to recharge from solar. Well, you can hook up a generator to this, like I mentioned earlier. You can have your generator circuit breaker right here. Outside, you're gonna have a generator inlet port. You're gonna wire that to this circuit breaker right here. If you've been running off a battery for a couple of days, you'll go outside, start your generator, you're gonna flip over the lockout, and then you're going to basically switch over to generator power. You're gonna be powering the entire sub panel off of your generator. And also in here, down here at the bottom, you can set your maximum power of the generator. So if you have a 5,500 watt generator, you can select how many watts you want to use to recharge the battery, and that's a good thing so you don't overload your generator. So there's actually quite a few cool things in here that you can do. So anyway, back up here at the top, you got single phase 120 since this is a double pole circuit, and then of course you got a split phase 240. So if you have a backup generator, you are good to go. All right, so the next thing I was gonna do is just run through a couple of the examples just to show you how it works on the screen. And a couple of those examples is I'm gonna shut off the main power to this panel right over here to simulate a power outage. And I'll show you how quickly that happens, and then you can see exactly what happens on the app. Then I'll flip it back on grid. And then the next thing we'll do is we will manually go off grid through the self-consumption mode. Then I think the last thing we'll do is just manually turn off a circuit, and you can see how fast that switches. So first thing we're gonna do is simulate a grid outage, and let me turn the camera a little bit. All right, so we're gonna simulate a power outage, and I'm just gonna flip the main circuit breaker off over here, which supplies the EcoFlow panel right over here. So grid outage right now, and you can see how quick it is. All right, so that wasn't a very good example because the circuits are over there, but if you look on the app, you can see we're using battery power right here, and we're pulling from both of the Delta Pro Ultras. And we were also notified up here, we got a grid outage. Our home is currently powered by the batteries due to a power outage. So that's pretty cool. You do get real-time messages. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is simulate the grid coming back. We can see how quick it comes back. Boom, there we go, back on grid. So it is super, super quick. All right, so the next example is I'm going to manually turn us off grid, and I'm gonna show you that it is fast enough to keep all of your computer equipment on. All right, so we're gonna go up here into the settings, and we're gonna go down to operating mode, and we're gonna hit self-powered mode. And you'll get the little warning since we're in EPS mode. There you go. Turning on a savings mode will turn off the EPS mode. That's okay, we're gonna go ahead and do it. And it should switch over here any second. There it goes. I saw just the slightest little flash. All right, so there you go. We're drawing roughly 800 watts, and we're actually bringing in 859 watts, at least on one of the DPUs. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and flip us back to, or actually I'm just gonna turn off that mode. You saw a little tiny flash. And now, since we're not in EPS mode, we might actually start recharging on the center one right here, because it's gonna go up to our 90% state of charge. But it might not, since we've got 900 watts of solar coming in. All right, so now we're up here in my kitchen, and there's one more critical load that I always forget about is my cat's watering dish. I have this on the critical loads panel, just in case we're gone and the power goes out, it'll automatically switch on to continue powering the water dish, just like this right now. So what I'm gonna do real quick is I have a light bulb on this circuit as well, and we're just going to, I wanna turn it off while she's here. All right, so we got my kitchen island right here. We're gonna go ahead and hit that button. What happened? So anyway, this is really, really quick, and this is another circuit that I have on the critical loads panel or the smart home panel too. Because if we're gone, I want them to have water, right? You want me to do it again? It's kind of a cool game now. I could probably sit here for hours doing this. Uh-oh, watch out.
Several months later.
So anyway, there's a few other things that you can do in here. If you click on the DPUs right here, like I mentioned before, you can turn those on or off. We'll go ahead and do that right here. You can turn those on or off right here. Stop charging of the battery. Yeah, that one was charging. Okay, and then of course you can reconnect those at any time. Just like that. Whenever you reconnect them, they're gonna start automatically recharging to your charge limit that you have set in here. So I have mine set to 100% state of charge. I had it set to 90 just a little bit ago. They're gonna start recharging to that percent state of charge. So let me bring that back down to 90. All right, so anyway, we can go back in here and you can hit the manual charge button. We'll go ahead and do that and it will start recharging. Hey. So anyway, there's all sorts of things that you can do inside the app. All right, I came back down here for the last example and I put a task in here so you can see exactly how that works. So I went into operating mode, I went to scheduled task, and I went in here and I changed it from 1300 to 1310, which is supposed to happen in 1 minute. So we should go off grid in 1 minute. So we'll go back up here to the main screen, and this would be an example for time of use or just scheduled tasks that you have programmed in here to take you on and off grid, you know, to save you money, etc. All right, I think it just switched. All right, there it goes. You heard it click. If you look on the app, now you can see we're not drawing from the grid anymore, and we're drawing from the batteries. All right, well, while we wait for this to bring us back on grid for that scheduled task to show you that it does actually work, I think we're gonna start wrapping up this video. Now, there's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't show or mention in this video, but I did show in my last video on my channel. In that video, I showed you all sorts of different ways to use this, to hook it up, and I also showed you all the stuff that you could power off of one single Delta Pro Ultra and one battery. A few things that I could run in that was my 4-ton air conditioning. Just keep in mind, my air conditioning does have a soft start. Having a soft start on an air conditioning for systems like this or generators is a really good idea because it lowers that inrush of current whenever it's trying to start up. You know, you typically see your lights dimming and stuff like that. The soft start will take care of all that and basically be easier on your system. And a couple other things that you could run. Oh, there it goes. We switch back. All right, so there you go. Now we switch back to the on-grid mode. So that's how the scheduled tasks or the time of use works. Anyway, some of the other things that you could run was the 240 volt dryer and the 240 volt stove. Just keep in mind, whenever you run those really big loads off grid, you're gonna deplete a single battery pretty quickly. You're gonna actually want quite a few to run the really big loads. And of course, you're also gonna want some solar coming in to help you recharge. Anyway, I digress, and I could probably go on and on. So this is gonna conclude my review video that kind of turned into an overview video of the EcoFlow Smart Home Panel 2 and the Delta Pro Ultra. If anybody's looking for a complete home battery backup system that can literally be installed in less than a half a day, and you can start your off-grid journey or start saving money, make sure you check out the links down below. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns, or maybe I just completely missed something, make sure you put those comments down below. Don't forget to like that smash button on the way out, and I will see you on the next one. Okay, there was one other, all right. Hey, Beyonce, where are you going? I was gonna do this example real quick.